Mayor Brian Loughmiller, who was elected in June of '09, took office, and so he's halfway through his first term. And greetings, Mayor Loughmiller.
Hello, good afternoon.
Here to kind of find out from you the things that you're most excited about in your first half of your term, and the things that you want to accomplish in the second half of your term. So how have things gone so far, and what are the kind of your highlights?
Well, so far it's been entertaining. How's that? No, that's been good. I've enjoyed serving as mayor, and highlights for last year, for the first year and a half, I think there's a lot of things that I was thinking about this. You know, one of probably the biggest highlights was the Money Magazine article getting number 5. Mainly because when you're out and about, like in other cities and shopping centers and businesses, people have seen that and recognized it. And I think from a marketing standpoint, it's really helped the city. It'll help us as we move forward and try to bring more development into McKinney. So that's probably been a major highlight. We've really had a lot of really good publicity for the city. We had that. We just this last month we were in the magazine that Southwest Airlines puts out on all their flights.
Yeah. With
just a one-page article, why do people live in McKinney? And I talked about things like the parks and the hills and the hometown atmosphere and people that get together and know each other, and it's a real sense of community even though we're 130,000 people. So to me that's a big accomplishment, because what it tells me is that we are maintaining that feeling that everybody wants to have, and as to why they moved here to begin with, why I moved here 21 years ago, and we've maintained that even though we are growing as fast as we're growing.
It is a great place, I think, to raise children, which I think you guys have done a great job with. What are some of the things that you want to accomplish maybe in the next year, especially maybe some of the things that families that have moved here that may not already know some of the things that are going on with the city? What are some of the most exciting things that are kind of on the horizon?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that we're working on right now that are kind of behind the scenes in terms of planning, and that doesn't sound real like a lot of fun, and it's there's nothing fancy about it, but it's something you have to do, and with the economy being what it is, the struggle we have right now is when you start looking at how a city's going to develop and how do you create an environment where people do want to live here. The things I hear all the time is like, well, why don't we have more shopping? Why don't we have like what they have in Fairview and Allen? And the reality is that a lot of that happens over time based on how your streets and infrastructure develop. And so as we're watching all of this development on 121 and we're watching all the development on 75 and how the roads are going to expand, we will get that type of development. So we have to start planning today for what McKinney's going to look like really 5 years down the road, because most of the road construction will be over the next 4 to 5 years. And that's a hard thing to do, but things that we're doing, for instance, we're talking with Collin College about what are their future plans. Are they going to expand their programs? And if so, we'd like them to do it here in McKinney, and maybe at both the central campus and over there where their new higher education center is. We're talking about things like the airport, and how do we bring in more businesses to the airport, and how do we also, Parks project, that's a tough one, because now, when you start thinking about, if you look around all the different cities and when they start cutting things because of tax issues or the economy, usually the first things they cut are parks and recreation, cultural events, arts, that type of thing. We haven't had to do that, but we're just into 1.5 years of a tough budget cycle, and we really don't know what's going to happen in the next year or two. So we have to watch that too, because obviously we want to continue to provide recreational facilities for people, and we have some on the horizon that we haven't been able to do yet that we want to do. So those are the challenges, and also I guess the fun part of it is trying to come up with a strategy to be able to do that, because we sit here and look at it, okay, we want to do an auditorium and a rec center. All right, we also need to, in addition to that, figure out what we're going to do about the hotel conference center. We also need to figure out what we're going to do about like I said, the airport development in downtown. And all of those things cost money. And what I'm trying to get a feeling on council and across our community is, don't go into this with the mindset that if you do one thing, you can't do something else, because that tends to be that's what you usually see, and that's the easy thing to trap to fall into, to say, well, gosh, if we go spend all this money building a hotel, then necessarily we can't spend money building an auditorium. And that's not necessarily true, because there are different ways to fund projects, and everything from public-private. We tried to do the one project with the school district. They have their economic issues, so they can't do that right now. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that we can't find another partner. Same thing with these commercial projects. There's a lot of public-private opportunities with those too. So there's a lot going on.
Does that mean that the natatorium is or is not imminent?
Well, imminent is a relative term, isn't it? A relative term, I should say. It's
in time for our middle schoolers to utilize it while they're still at home.
In time for you not to become a senior rec center.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it is. I think we can get it done. What we're looking at right now really is there's 2 or 3 issues. Number one is, how much money are we going to spend? We had money already allocated to the project. But the model that we had with the school district is significantly different than what we would do without the school district. Right. We are going to have a meeting, I believe at our February 15th meeting. The Parks and Rec Department will be bringing forward some options, and if not February, the first meeting in March. And they're looking at 4 or 5 different options right now, anything from a 25 meter by 25 yard pool to the 50 meter pool configuration. Probably that's going to be a tough one to do unless we bring in another partner, and there are other possibilities with that. The timing of it is another issue, because one way that you can do these projects is to where you do multiple projects is using phasing. So if we do phase the project, the big question is, what's the first phase? Is it the competitive pool, or is it the rec center? Because the rec center will cash flow the competitive pool.
Right.
But if you go out and you talk to most of the people that are interested in the auditorium, it's the competitive pool that is the priority, because of 3 high schools and going to 5A and need the facility. Right. So, and that's an area too where we as a city, even though the school district has said we can't afford to be a partner in building the project, we still have to recognize that the people that have kids in school are the same taxpayers that pay taxes to the city. And even if the school doesn't participate in the capital construction, we still have to think in terms of, well, how are we going to work with them for use? Because they're going to need it. They're going to need to use whatever we build, and we recognize that too. And that's kind of a touchy subject, because you sit there and you go, okay, well, the city's going to put in $15 million or $20 million into a project that the school can't participate in, and then you're going to turn around and say, well, we're going to go ahead and let the schools use them. And I don't know if it'll be a lease situation or how we'll do that, but we have to look at it, because you pay taxes to both entities, I pay taxes to both entities, I have kids, you have kids, and the reality is that's an area where we can work together, recognizing how we can help each other out. So I'm hoping this year, within, I would say within the next 3 to 6 months, we ought to be able to work out some planning details on a lot of these different projects, at least get priorities in place, figure out the timing of when we can do the construction and how we're going to do that.
Wasn't the city also planning a tennis complex?
Yes, and actually the tennis complex and the skate park are both moving forward, and in fact I talked to Loughmiller Randolph I think a week or 2 ago, and I believe the tennis complex is slated to be I want to say it's supposed to even be done by the end of 2011.
That'd be great.
And so in the skate park too. They're both starting this summer, or this spring.
And where are those?
At Gabe Nesbitt Park. And the cool thing about the skate park is we're having the 8th graders at the various middle schools help design it.
That's fun.
Yeah, they actually have they've created a class at the school, and Parks and Rec people have met with them, and they have these organized classes that talk about, designing parks and things like that. And then they have meetings. They had their first meeting in February, I think just last week, with Parks and Rec Department, a group of kids, to go talk about the elements of design for a skate park. So these kids will have an opportunity to say that they helped build what they're going to use.
That sounds
So
fun.
that's going to be a lot of fun.
Give them some ownership.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, very much for joining us today and giving everybody an update of what's going on in the city.
This has been a production of Town Square Buzz. Tune in for part 2 for updates with Mayor Brian Loughmiller.